This video is intended to teach you how to avoid plagiarism through proper citation. Okay, so proper citation, what does it need? It needs two things. It needs in-text citations and it needs a list of references. So we're going to start with in-text citations and then we'll finish with your list of references. So you have an essay and in that essay you need to have in-text citations. So those in-text citations tell the reader the source of each of your details, each of your quotes, each of your paraphrases that you use in that essay. Okay. Your list of references, instead of being in the middle of the text, they're at the end of the text and they tell the reader to where to find each source. So they're looking for where each source is out in the world. So the connection is each detail then when they're reading the text, they can trace back to where that is exactly out in the world, which is how it helps you to avoid plagiarism because you're showing your reader where you got this information. Okay, so let's get into in-text citations, right? Like I said, they are in the text of your essay, and they look like this, okay? You see they're all spread throughout. The parts in blue are your in-text citations. They're spread all throughout your essay, okay? And they need two things. They need a source introduction, and they need a parenthetical citation. And so, in fact, that's the in-text citation. So combined with a detail, you're actually creating, for lack of a better metaphor, like a sandwich. This is actually the first detail and the last detail from this essay. If you'll notice, both of these details are in fact paraphrased information. Neither of them are quotes. Okay, so the first detail. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to introduce the source according to the study conducted at the University of Montebello, blah, 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 right? Then we're going to provide the detail, right? Then we're going to provide a parenthetical citation, which means it's in parentheses. This is the whole thing, and it does two things. Not only does it point to which source this information comes from in detail, but it also actually serves the purpose, especially in the case of paraphrases, of showing where that paraphrase starts and where it ends. So the stuff that's outside of this entire detail with its source introduction, detail, and parenthetical citation, the stuff outside of this is in fact analysis. This is one of the most effective ways to show that you're not plagiarizing because it's very clearly indicating this is not my idea, right? And everything outside of this is my idea. So in general, like I said, a sandwich. And in the most basic case, we can say that it's according to someone, and we give a little bit of information about that someone. Then there's the detail itself. Then we have the author's last name, the date of publication, and the page number, right? And this is all in parentheses. But it's not that easy because not every sandwich is the same. There's lots of variation. Some of it's just necessary because of where you are in your paper and whether you've introduced your source before or not. Because if you've introduced your source once, you don't want to reintroduce them in as much detail as before. This is every source introduction from that paper. There's always going to be some variation, just like there's some variation in sandwiches, right? So this is all the parenthetical citations from that paper, and the same thing is true. So how do you know how to choose to do this? Well, the best advice is to start out by doing it in the most, what we would call, orthodox way possible. Follow all of the instructions to a T, and you'll learn. The other advice that I can give you about how to vary it is check with the person who's grading your paper. The problem with this is because there's so much variation, and because there's so much variation within APA-style guidelines, there's actually not one way to do this. And this is probably the most important piece of advice, is pay attention to the details, because the details will tell you how much introductory information that you need to provide at this point in the essay. Do you need to provide the author's last name here, or have you already mentioned their last name up here? You know, that this isn't something that's as easy to just do mindlessly. You should be using your creativity and your mental energy, but this is how you do it. So pay attention to the details, check with your instructor, and you're gonna be in pretty good shape, right? So that's the first part. A list of references is the second part of proper citation. And like I said, it's included at the end of the essay, and it looks like this. right? It's not throughout. I'm going to go ahead and create a single reference for a list of references. You notice over here there's two references listed here, and obviously this could go on and become 4 or 5 or 10 or even 100, right? They're always listed in alphabetical order. So it's D here, if you can see that, and then it's an M. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but I'm only going to create this reference for you today, just to show you how to actually do it. Okay, so there's two parts to creating a list of references. The first is you want to gather some information on that reference. So you want to make sure that you have the text with you, that source text, okay? And if you can, find all 9 of these pieces of information. Now, you're not going to necessarily going to be able to find all 9 of these pieces of information. For example, a URL is only important if you've got a web-based source. If you've got a book, there's no web address for a book. Page range matters more when you have a PDF or a web document or an actual printed book, but a lot of websites just have a scrolling page that goes from top to bottom, so it doesn't actually have any page number. The type of source is really, really, really important. Is this an anthology? Is it a book? Is it a magazine? Is it a scholarly journal? Is it a video? A bunch of different things that will ask you for different kinds of information. And it's really smart to pay attention to those different types of sources because it'll help you figure out what exactly you need to provide. Okay. All right. So once you've gathered as many of these as you possibly can, and again, the more the better. So I've gathered all of these actually for, like I said, this reference. It's actually a scholarly journal article called Enhancing Secondary School Counseling with a Therapeutic Dog. So I've got all of these different pieces of information about it, luckily. So I'm going to take those pieces of information and I'm going to use them to do the second part of this. MS Word has software to help you build a list of references. Now, part of where you have to use your creativity and your analytic powers, that different versions of Word, this is placed in different places, whether you're on a Mac or a PC, all of those different things. But the software is pretty much standard in all versions of MS Word. So if you're using Word, you're going to be able to find some version of this. It's just going to look different in some cases. Okay, so if I'm in a new doc, right, on Mac I have to go to Document Elements, right, and I come over here, there's a References tab, and I want to toggle that References tab to APA style. There's different styles, like MLA in Chicago. APA means American Psychological Association. So that's what you're being asked to put your papers in for me and for a lot of your other courses here at AUA. So you want to toggle it to APA style, and then you want to come down here to Manage. Again, this is different in different versions, so don't worry if it looks different to you. And now I've got a citations list. There's actually something called a master list here, right? And it actually has the other source. So I'm going to actually copy that over to our current list, because a master list is like your computer just saves it, but your current list is the one that's going to show up in your paper. So I'm going to copy it over here, and then I'm going to create a new one, right? And I want to create a new source in here so that it can go onto my current list over here. Okay, so now I've got a document from a website, but there's all, like I said, there's all different sorts here, right? An interview, a film, ... I'm going to go ahead and do a document from a website. Okay, for the authors' names, we can actually, when there's multiple authors, you always want to do their last name first. So you can add them in if there's a lot of authors, and there you can add them in here, and it makes it a little bit easier. D-A-U-G-H-H-T-E-E. Wait, I want to make sure that that's spelled correctly. D-A-U-G-H-H-E-T-E-E, yes. Laura Stahl's and Emily Spencer. Okay. I'm going to come back over here. C-H-A-R-L-O-T-T-E. Charlotte Doughty. Stalls. Laura. And Spencer. So those are my 3 authors in this study. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to add the name of the web page and the name of the website. So I've actually got our, I've actually pulled up the PDF of this study, and I've got the name of the web page and the name of the website. But sometimes Chrome will actually list the name of the web page and the name of the website up here, but this is actually just an application number. So I'm going to avoid that, and I'm going to go with what I know about this web page and this website. The name of the web page is, in fact, the name of the title of this piece, right? Enhancing Secondary School Counseling with the help of therapeutic dogs. Yeah, I got to make sure that I check this stuff or I won't remember it. Enhancing secondary school counseling with a therapeutic dog. Good. Right. With a oh, okay. The name of the website is in fact Eric, URIC, and that's a German database where they keep all sorts of scientific journals. Okay, so we got to go grab the URL, and I'm going to copy and paste it. So I'm going to grab it from here. Copy and paste. Cool. Okay. But if you notice, I'm focusing on these ones with stars, the recommended fields. Producer name, the production company. I'm not worried about this right now. Okay, but I am worried about the year, month, and day that it was created, and the year, month, and day that I accessed it. It was actually created in 2006, but I don't know the month and day. And the year that I accessed it was obviously 2017. The month that I accessed it was December, and the day I accessed it was, let's see, today is the 9th. Okay. Now, we can add in all of this information, but I don't necessarily feel that's necessary, so I'm going to come down here to the comments and put in my page range, so D period 47 through 55. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go check and make sure I've added all of that information in fact, correctly. Okay, so, sweet. The publisher. I do want to add the publisher, so I forgot a piece of information. Everything else looks pretty good from here. The Alabama Counseling Association Journal. Let's see. Alabama Counseling Association Journal. Okay, so I believe that I've added all of this information correctly. Everything is spelled correctly. And because otherwise I would be plagiarizing. If I misrepresent this information, it is akin to plagiarism. Okay. So, now, in my current list over here, I have both of my sources, so I can go ahead and close. And once I've done that, and we'll get into this when we talk about formatting in the next one, this is where this tool really becomes useful, because I can now, at this point, I can click on this button for bibliography, and click on this, and it will pop in a full bibliography, and everything is in its right place, all of the punctuation is correct. So that's the promise of this. Now in the next one we're going to get into how you actually take this and format it correctly according to APA style, because it looks fine right now.